The crystal chandelier cast dancing shadows across the marble floor of Winterbourne Manor's grand ballroom. Sophia Hartley stood in the center of the room, 7 months pregnant, clutching divorce papers. Around her, 200 guests in designer gowns and tailored suits raised their champagne glasses. Someone laughed. The sound rippled through the crowd like poison. Her husband, former husband, stood beside a woman in a red dress. The woman's hand rested on her own visibly pregnant belly. "Sign them, Sophia," Marcus Ashford said. "Stop making this harder than it needs to be." Sophia's tears fell onto the papers, smudging the ink. Behind Marcus, his mother, Catherine Ashford, sipped her wine and watched with cold satisfaction. Someone held up a phone, recording. The pen shook in Sophia's hand as she pressed it to paper. What none of them knew was that this was the last moment they would ever feel powerful. Before we continue, tell me where you're watching from. I love seeing your locations. Now back to the story. Sophia had met Marcus at a charity gala where she worked as an event coordinator. He'd approached her during the silent auction, mistaking her for a guest. "You look bored," he'd said. "These things are insufferable, aren't they?" She'd laughed. "I wouldn't know. I'm working." That had intrigued him. He'd seemed different from the other wealthy men in the room. Less pretentious, more interested in her work with underprivileged communities than in showing off his portfolio. Their courtship had been a whirlwind. Marcus took her to hole-in-the-wall restaurants, not five-star establishments. They'd walked through Central Park on Sunday mornings. He'd listened when she talked about her dreams of expanding literacy programs. He'd never mentioned his family's wealth directly. She'd known the Ashford name, everyone in New York did. Ashford Industries had built half the city's skyline. But Marcus had seemed determined to be seen as just Marcus. When he'd proposed 6 months later, she'd said yes without hesitation. That was her first mistake. Catherine Ashford had received the news of her son's engagement like a terminal diagnosis. Their first meeting took place in the Ashford family's private study, paneled in dark wood and lined with first editions. Catherine sat behind an antique desk, studying Sophia with clinical detachment. "So you're the girl who's caught my son's attention." Not a question, an accusation. Sophia smiled, nervous but hopeful. "It's an honor to meet you, Mrs. Ashford. Tell me about your family." "My parents both worked in education. They passed away in a car accident when I was 22. "How tragic." Catherine's tone suggested otherwise. "And their estate?" Sophia blinked. "I'm sorry. Inheritance. Assets. They left me their love and their values. And student loan debt. I paid it off last year." The silence that followed was glacial. Catherine stood. "Marcus is young, impulsive. He'll outgrow this infatuation." She'd walked out without another word. Marcus had apologized. His mother would come around, he'd promised. She never did. They'd married in a small ceremony in a renovated Brooklyn loft. Catherine attended wearing black, as if at a funeral. She sat with her lips pressed into a thin line, her expression communicating exactly what she thought. Marcus's sister, Victoria, had been openly hostile. His father, Edmund, had said perhaps 10 words all evening. Still, Sophia had been happy. She'd married the man she loved. That was her second mistake. The first year had been difficult but manageable. Marcus's family kept their distance. Sophia continued her nonprofit work. Marcus seemed proud of it. But small things changed. Marcus started working later. Business dinners became frequent. Catherine would call at odd times, and Marcus would leave the room. The family dinners at Winterbourne Manor were worse. Catherine presided like a queen, making subtle digs Marcus never noticed. "Sophia, dear, that dress is lovely. Is it from last season?" Sophia endured it all with quiet grace, telling herself dignity was its own reward. That was her third mistake. When Sophia discovered she was pregnant, 18 months into the marriage, she'd been overjoyed. A baby would change everything. She'd told Marcus over dinner at their favorite Italian restaurant. His reaction had been, "Off. Are you sure?" 3 tests. "Yes. This isn't the best timing, Sophia. The company is in a major acquisition. My mother is already stressed. When she told Catherine, the older woman's face became ice. How far along? 8 weeks. Catherine looked at her son. Something passed between them that made Sophia's stomach turn. Well, I suppose we'll have to make the best of it. The family made no announcement. No celebration. Sophia's pregnancy was treated like an embarrassment rather than a joy. As Sophia's belly grew, Marcus grew distant. He stopped coming home for dinner, stopped asking about appointments, stopped touching her entirely. When she'd reached for him in bed one night, he'd pulled away. I'm tired, Sophia. I just wanted to be close to you. I said I'm tired. She'd lain awake beside him, her hand on her growing belly. Victoria started visiting more often, staying for long dinners, speaking in low voices about family business. Once, Sophia entered a room to find Victoria showing Marcus something on her phone. Both looked up guiltily. Just photos from the club, Victoria said with a cold smile. Nothing that would interest you. Red flags were everywhere. But Sophia was 7 months pregnant, exhausted, desperately trying to hold her marriage together. So she ignored what she couldn't bear to acknowledge. The invitation to the annual Ashford Christmas Gala arrived via Catherine's assistant. Mrs. Ashford requests your attendance. Cocktail attire. 7 p.m. Don't be late. Sophia felt a flicker of hope. Maybe this was an olive branch. She bought a new maternity dress. Navy blue. Elegant. She did her hair carefully. At 7 months pregnant, she felt huge and uncomfortable, but she tried. Marcus barely looked at her. Ready? Do I look okay? He glanced at her. You look fine. Let's go. Not beautiful. Not perfect. Just fine. They rode to Winterbourne Manor in silence. Marcus's jaw tight, his attention on his phone. The manor was spectacular. White lights everywhere. A massive Christmas tree dominated the entrance hall. 200 guests milled about the ballroom. Catherine greeted them at the door in silver silk. Marcus, darling. She kissed her son's cheek. Then her eyes moved to Sophia. Sophia, how substantial you look. Marcus left her side almost immediately. Sophia stood alone by the dessert table, sipping water, watching the party swirl around her. And then she saw her. She was beautiful, tall, blonde, wearing a red dress that hugged every curve. Young, maybe 25. She was laughing at something Victoria said, one hand resting on her stomach. Her pregnant stomach. Sophia froze. The woman couldn't have been more than 5 months along. She wore the pregnancy like an accessory. Marcus appeared beside her, his hand settling on the small of her back. A gesture so familiar it made Sophia's body go cold. She watched as Marcus leaned in to whisper something in the woman's ear. The woman laughed, her hand coming up to rest on Marcus's chest. Victoria caught Sophia staring. Their eyes met, and Victoria's smile was triumphant. Then Victoria leaned in to whisper to Catherine. Catherine looked directly at Sophia and smiled. Crystal being tapped with a knife rang through the ballroom. Catherine stood on the small stage. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us tonight. Christmas has always been a time for family, for honesty, and for new beginnings. Sophia's hands started shaking. Tonight, we have some family business to address publicly. Marcus, darling, would you join me? Marcus walked to the stage. My son has found himself in an unfortunate situation, Catherine continued. A mistake made in youth. But Marcus has also found something real. Something worth building a future on. Marcus. He took the microphone. I want to announce that I'm filing for divorce from my wife, Sophia, and I'm asking Amanda Prescott to marry me. The woman in red stepped onto the stage, tears in her eyes. The crowd erupted in applause. Sophia stood frozen. Amanda threw her arms around Marcus, kissing him while 200 people cheered. Catherine took the microphone back. Amanda is pregnant with Marcus's child, conceived out of real love, and that child deserves to be born into a legitimate family. Catherine's eyes found Sophia. We've arranged for the divorce papers to be signed tonight. Sophia, dear, would you come up here? Every eye turned to her. Sophia's legs moved on their own. When she reached the stage, a lawyer was waiting with papers and a pen. Just sign at the bottom, Mrs. Ashford. I don't understand. Marcus. He looked at her finally. Nothing there. No love. No guilt. Just impatience. Just sign the papers, Sophia. The prenup, Victoria called out. You get nothing. Not 1 cent. Catherine stepped closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. Did you really think a nobody like you would keep my son? Now sign the papers and get out of my house. Your house. Everything you thought was yours? The penthouse? The car? All owned by Ashford Industries. All mine. You own nothing. You are nothing. Sophia's hands trembled as she held the pen. At least your kid will grow up knowing their mother was smart enough to walk away with dignity, Marcus said. Laughter rippled through the crowd. Sophia looked down at the papers. At the signature line. Her baby kicked hard. Protect yourself. Protect your baby. She signed. The crowd applauded. Catherine took the papers immediately. Perfect. Now it's time for you to leave. You're no longer family. I'll get my things. Already being boxed, Victoria said sweetly. My coat. Consider it a parting gift. 2 security guards appeared. Gentlemen, please escort the former Mrs. Ashford out. They walked her through the ballroom, past 200 faces watching. Behind her, Catherine's voice rose. Now, let's toast the happy couple. Cheers followed Sophia all the way to the door. What Marcus didn't know was that the real damage hadn't even started. The doors of Winterbourne Manor closed behind her. Snow was falling, thick and heavy. The December night was bitter. Sophia stood on the steps in her thin dress, arms wrapped around herself. The circular driveway stretched before her. The estate's gates were at least half a mile away. She started walking. Each step sent pain through her swollen feet. Her dress was soaked within minutes. Snow collected in her hair, melting into icy rivulets down her neck. Her baby kicked frantically. I know, she whispered through chattering teeth. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. A quarter mile in, the cramps started. First a tightness in her belly, then sharper, more insistent. She stopped, leaning against a tree. No, not now. Please. Her phone was in her purse. Her purse was still inside. She had nothing. The cramps intensified. Sophia sank to her knees in the snow, arms around her belly. Not like this. Headlights appeared on the road beyond the gates. Car passing. She tried to call out, but her voice was too weak. The car passed. Another cramp doubled her over. This is how I die. Alone in the snow while my husband celebrates. The thought made something inside her break. Not her will. Her silence. She'd been silent too long. Silent through the insults, the isolation, the cruelty. Sophia pulled herself to her feet. She looked down at her belly. We're not giving up, she whispered. You hear me? We're not done yet. She stumbled forward toward the gates. She made it to the guardhouse. The security guard looked up, startled. Mrs. Ashford? What the? Phone. Please. I need a phone. He handed it over. Sophia stared at the keypad. She had no one to call. Her parents were gone. Her friends had drifted away. Catherine had made sure of that. There was one number. One person she'd sworn she would never contact. Her pride screamed at her not to. Her baby kicked again, weaker. She dialed. The phone rang. Once, twice, 3 times. Hello. The voice was deep, commanding. Uncle James. Silence. Long enough that she thought the call had dropped. Sophie. She started crying. Great, gasping sobs. Sophie, what's wrong? Where are you? I'm sorry. I know I said I'd never call, I know. Where are you? She gave him the address. Stay on the line. Stay exactly where you are. Yes. Sophie. Are you hurt? I'm pregnant. 7 months. And I think something's wrong. The sound he made was almost a growl. 20 minutes. Don't you dare hang up. The guard brought her inside, wrapping his jacket around her. He looked terrified. Sophia huddled on the bench, James's voice steady in her ear, until she saw them. The headlights. Not one car. 5 black SUVs moving in formation. The last door opened, and a man stepped out. James Montgomery was 72. Silver-haired, impeccably dressed even at midnight. His overcoat probably cost more than the guardhouse. He looked at Sophia, at the soaked dress, the shaking hands, the tears, and his face transformed into something terrifying. Get her in the car. Carefully. Call Dr. Richardson. I want her at Mercy General in 15 minutes or I'll buy the hospital and fire everyone in it. Gentle hands helped Sophia to her feet. Someone wrapped her in a heated blanket. She was guided into the SUV, the seats warm. James slid in beside her, his arm around her shoulders. You're safe now. I've got you. She leaned into him, exhausted. They threw me out. In the snow. While they laughed. I know. How? He held up his phone. On screen was a video, grainy but clear. Sophia crying, signing papers while people laughed. It's already viral. Broke woman divorced at Christmas party. 20,000 shares. Sophia closed her eyes. The baby. We'll be fine. We're almost there. James, I was wrong. About everything. About walking away from you. About trying to prove I didn't need help. Yes, you were. I wanted to prove I was more than just. The Montgomery name? He smiled sadly. You've always been more than the name. That's why it hurt when you walked away from it. The SUV pulled up to the emergency entrance. Medical staff waited with a gurney. As they lifted her, James took her hand. Rest now. When you wake up, everything will be different. What are you going to do? His smile was cold enough to freeze blood. Remind some people that the Montgomery family doesn't take kindly to our loved ones being abused. Sophia woke in a private hospital room that looked like a 5-star hotel suite. Afternoon light streamed through windows. Fresh flowers covered every surface. Her hands went to her belly. The baby's fine. She turned to find James sitting in an armchair, reading a newspaper. You've been asleep for 18 hours. Exhaustion, mild hypothermia, dehydration. Dr. Richardson says you're both remarkably resilient. James, your blood pressure is elevated but manageable. Bed rest for at least a week. I've arranged around-the-clock care. I can't afford. Sophie, stop. You called me. You asked for help. I'm giving it. Let that be enough. She started crying again. He moved to sit on the edge of the bed, taking her hand. I'm sorry. You told me Marcus was wrong. You said the Ashfords would eat me alive. I was so self-righteous. Sophie, breathe. She tried, gasping. You were 28 and in love. You wanted to believe in romance. I understand. Your mother, my sister, was the same. At the mention of her mother, Sophie cried harder. She would have been disappointed. No, she would have been proud you left. That you protected your child. That you called for help. That's not weakness. That's survival. What happens now? Now you recover. Have your baby. Heal. And Marcus? The Ashfords. Let me worry about that. I don't want revenge. Good. Because this isn't revenge. This is consequences. They made choices. Now they'll live with them. He stood. The nurse will be in shortly. Get some rest. James? She called. Thank you. Your family, Sophie. Even when you were pretending not to be. Family protects each other. He paused. And family makes sure that those who harm us deeply regret it. Catherine would later realize this meeting was the moment everything collapsed. Marcus woke on Christmas Eve morning with a hangover and satisfaction. It was done. Amanda was moving into the penthouse that afternoon. He checked his phone while making coffee. An email from Ashford Industries Board, urgent. Emergency meeting required. Wednesday, 9 a.m. Attendance mandatory. Strange. The company always shut down during holidays. He called his mother. Did you get the email? Yes. Catherine's voice was tight. I've been trying to reach Edmund. He's not answering. It's probably year-end business. I don't like surprises, Marcus. But even as he said it, Marcus felt the first flutter of unease. By Christmas morning, the video had been viewed over 5 million times. Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, then the news. Pregnant woman publicly humiliated at Christmas party read page 6. The comments were brutal, but not in the direction the Ashfords expected. The cruelty of these rich people is disgusting. Imagine throwing a pregnant woman into snow. Actual psychopaths. Someone please find out who these people are. By noon, someone had. Update: family identified as the Ashfords of Ashford Industries. Net worth $2.4 billion. Victoria started receiving death threats. She locked all her accounts within hours. Marcus's email was flooded with messages calling him scum and heartless bastard. Catherine received calls from 3 board members, asking if the video was real. She issued a statement. The video represents a private family matter taken wildly out of context. We ask for privacy. The internet was not sympathetic. On December 26th, every Ashford received a letter. Cream-colored envelope. Expensive paper. Return address: Montgomery and Associates, Legal Counsel. Catherine opened hers in her study, Edmund looking over her shoulder. Dear Mrs. Ashford, this letter serves as formal notice that the property known as Winterbourne Manor is owned by Montgomery Holdings, LLC. Your family has been residing under a lease agreement for 15 years. That agreement has been terminated effective immediately. You have 30 days to vacate the premises. Enclosed, documentation of ownership transfer, which occurred 24 hours ago. Sincerely, Montgomery and Associates. Catherine read it 3 times, hands shaking. This is impossible. We've owned Winterbourne for 30 years. Edmund took the letter. His face went gray. Catherine, we never owned it. We've been leasing it. From whom? Some holding company. The payments were automatic. I haven't thought about it in years. Find out who Montgomery Holdings is. Now. 20 minutes later, Edmund looked up, stricken. Montgomery Holdings is owned by James Montgomery. Who the hell is James Montgomery? The James Montgomery. Montgomery Industries. Steel, shipping, real estate. Old money older than ours. Net worth makes ours look like pocket change. A horrible suspicion formed in Catherine's mind. Find out if he has any connection to Sophie. The answer came within the hour. James Montgomery's sister, his only sibling, had been Eleanor Montgomery. She'd married a teacher named Robert Hartley, had 1 daughter, Sophia Hartley. Catherine stood in her study, letter clutched in her hand. We threw out James Montgomery's niece into the snow while pregnant, and we laughed. Edmund turned gray. God help us. The video didn't just go viral. It reached the one person they should have feared most. Marcus arrived at Ashford Industries 15 minutes early. Catherine and Edmund were already in the boardroom. His mother's composure was frayed. Marcus, sit. We need to talk. What's going on? James Montgomery bought Winterbourne Manor. He's evicting us. 30 days. Marcus laughed. That's impossible. We lease, Catherine snapped. And James Montgomery is Sophia's uncle. The laughter died. Sophie's. What? Her mother was Eleanor Montgomery. She walked away from billions to marry some teacher. But that doesn't change bloodline. Sophie is James Montgomery's only living relative. His heir. That can't be right. Sophie worked for a nonprofit. She lived in a studio. She drove a 15-year-old Honda. By choice, Edmund said quietly. She wanted to make it on her own. And we threw her out, Catherine added hollowly. While pregnant. Someone filmed it. 20 million people watched. Marcus felt something cold settle in his chest. The boardroom doors opened. 7 board members entered, none smiling. And with them a man Marcus had never seen. Silver-haired, wearing a suit that cost more than Marcus's car. James Montgomery. He took a seat at the head of the table, Edmund's seat. Shall we begin? My name is James Montgomery. As of 9 a.m., I am the majority shareholder of Ashford Industries. Silence. That's not possible. Many board members hold significant shares. I spent 3 days making generous offers. Mr. Patterson, Ms. Liu, and Mr. Davenport sold me their combined 48%. Combined with shares from smaller stakeholders, I now control 53%. 3 board members refused to meet the Ashfords' eyes. James opened a folder. Edmund Ashford, you're removed as CEO, effective immediately. Marcus Ashford, removed as VP. Catherine Ashford, your board position is terminated. You can't. Your grandfather built this company. You've simply been living off his legacy. I've reviewed your financials. The Brooklyn development, deeply underwater. Your personal expenses charged to the company, excessive and likely fraudulent. Should I continue? This is about Sophie, Catherine said. No. I'm doing this because you threw a pregnant woman, my pregnant niece, into a snowstorm on Christmas. Because you publicly humiliated her, forced her to sign papers while people laughed and filmed, then literally had her escorted out without a coat. Because when I watched that video, I saw a woman I love like a daughter begging for basic dignity while your family treated her like garbage. He stood, buttoning his jacket. The legal team will contact you regarding severance, which, per your contracts, are at my discretion. Don't expect much. You're destroying our lives. James looked at Marcus with something like pity. No, I'm ending your free ride. There's a difference. You can still work, still build a life. You'll just have to do it without money you didn't earn, a name you didn't build, and arrogance you don't deserve. He walked to the door, paused. Oh, and one more thing. The penthouse where you're living, also owned by Montgomery Holdings as of yesterday. You have 72 hours to vacate. The door closed. In the silence, Marcus finally understood. They'd lost everything. Amanda was in the penthouse when Marcus returned, surrounded by half-unpacked boxes. Marcus, I was thinking we should redo the master. We have to leave. Her smile faltered. What? This penthouse is not ours. 3 days to get out. I don't understand. Sophie's uncle bought the building. He's evicting us. Sophie's uncle? Amanda laughed uncertainly. Sophie doesn't have family. She was nobody. That's what your mother said. My mother was catastrophically wrong. He poured scotch with shaking hands, downing it in one gulp. Sophie is James Montgomery's niece and heir. Montgomery Industries, worth about $40 billion. Amanda went still. 40 billion? She walked away from it to make it on her own. And he laughed bitterly. I left her for you because I thought she had nothing. Marcus, the company's gone. My job's gone. This apartment's gone. Winterbourne's gone. But your trust fund, controlled by the board, which is now controlled by Montgomery. Amanda stood, hand on her belly, face cycling through emotions. So what do we have? Each other. She stared, then started laughing. Hi. Hysterical. You're joking? You think I fell in love with you? Marcus, I barely tolerate you. I'm here because your mother promised me the Ashford name, money, life. Amanda, did you really think someone like me would want you without money? You're not even good looking. And you're terrible in bed. Each word landed like a blow. I'm carrying your child. She laughed. Are you sure? The room tilted. What? I'm 3 months pregnant. We started sleeping together 4 months ago. Do the math. Whose is it? Does it matter? Victoria set us up. Get pregnant, seduce you, secure the fortune. Good plan. Until your psychotic ex turned out to be secretly rich. She grabbed her purse. Amanda, wait. I'm calling my actual boyfriend to see if his family still has money. Have fun being poor. Maybe you and Sophie can commiserate. The door slammed. Marcus stood alone in the soon-to-be former penthouse. The full weight of his choices crashed down. The Ashfords discovered their entire lifestyle had been built on credit and assumptions. Cars, leased through the company. Credit cards, company accounts, club memberships, vacation homes, art, all tied to assets now frozen or liquidated. Edmund's personal bank account, $47,000. Not millions, Not hundreds of thousands. Catherine's jewelry, believed to be worth 6 figures, turned out mostly costume. The real jewelry was in a safe deposit box registered to Ashford Industries, now owned by Montgomery Holdings. They moved into a corporate extended-stay hotel while they figured out what came next. Marcus watched his mother try to maintain dignity while filling out paperwork like a normal person. "This is temporary," Catherine said, voice brittle. "We'll rebuild." "Does it?" Edmund asked quietly. "Or did it mean something because we had money?" She had no answer. Marcus started applying for jobs. His resume looked good. MBA from Columbia, VP at Ashford Industries, board positions. But every interview went the same way. Professional at first, standard questions. Then, Ashford Industries. "I saw something about that in the news. There was a family situation. The Christmas divorce video? That was you. It was taken out of context." "I'm sure. Unfortunately, we're going to pass." They never called back. By month's end, Marcus had been turned down 23 times. He finally got an offer from a small real estate firm in New Jersey. $65,000 a year. 3 years ago, he'd spent more than that on watches. He took the job. Sophia's lawyer, Patricia Chun, contacted Marcus in mid-January. "We need to discuss child support and custody. I want joint custody. That's my child too. Mr. Ashford, you signed papers giving Ms. Hartley full legal and physical custody. You reviewed and signed this." "I didn't read the—" He stopped. "I want to renegotiate." "That's not how this works. The divorce is final. The custody is final. However, Ms. Hartley will allow supervised visitation once the child is born, provided you meet conditions." "What conditions?" "Parenting course, stable employment and housing, psychological evaluation." "That's ridiculous. The alternative is no visitation." "Your choice." He agreed. The child support was brutal. Because the divorce finalized before the baby's birth, and Marcus had signed away rights to contest, he owed maximum support based on his previous income, not his current $65,000. His former $850,000. That's $6,200 a month. The court won't adjust because you voluntarily left your position, or rather, lost it due to circumstances of your own making. "I can't afford that." "Then find better employment. Payments begin when the child is born. Failure to pay results in wage garnishment and contempt charges." Marcus hung up and stared at the wall of his tiny studio apartment. All he could afford, and wondered how his life became unrecognizable. 3 months later, Sophia gave birth to a healthy baby girl on February 14th. She named her Eleanor, after her mother. The delivery was smooth, recovery easier than expected. She spent 2 weeks in a private recovery suite, with round-the-clock care and daily visits from James. He held Eleanor with the gentleness of someone who understood exactly how precious life could be. "She has your mother's eyes. Eleanor would have been so proud. I wish she could have met her. She's watching. I'm certain." Sophia slowly began to heal, not just physically but emotionally. She started therapy, working through the trauma. She reconnected with old friends who'd fallen away. And she began thinking about her future. "I want to go back to work," she told James one afternoon while Eleanor napped. "The nonprofit work. Helping kids. Of course, whenever you're ready. But differently this time. I want to use the Montgomery resources. Really use them. Build something that matters." James smiled. "Your mother would have loved that. She always said money was just a tool. It's what you build with it that defines you. I'm still not ready to be public about who I am. The Montgomery name. Take all the time you need. But Sophie, you were never just the Montgomery name. You've always been extraordinary on your own." Sophia was leaving a Brooklyn coffee shop, Eleanor in a carrier against her chest, when she saw him, Marcus, at a bus stop, looking exhausted in a worn suit. He'd lost weight, looked older, worn down. Their eyes met. Neither moved. Then Marcus crossed the street, stopping at a respectful distance. "Sophie, is that? Can I see her?" Sophia hesitated. then shifted so he could see Eleanor. The baby was awake, dark eyes curious. Marcus's face crumbled. She's beautiful. Yes. I'm so sorry. For everything. For not seeing you. For being weak. For hurting you. I know. Can we talk? Really talk? Sophia looked at him. This man she'd loved. This man who destroyed her and felt nothing. Not anger. Not hatred. Not pity. Nothing. Marcus, I've moved on. I have a daughter to raise. A life to build. None of it involves you. I'm her father. Biologically. But you signed away your rights. You chose Amanda over us. You chose your mother's approval over me. Those were your choices. Choices have consequences. Patricia said I could have supervised visits. When you complete the requirements. Have you? His silence was answer enough. I didn't think so. Sophia adjusted Eleanor's carrier. I need to go. Sophie, please. I loved you. I did. I was just too much of a coward to fight for it. I know. But love isn't enough when you don't have courage to protect it. I hope you figure that out someday. Not for my sake, but for yours. She walked away without looking back. Behind her, Marcus stood watching her disappear, understanding, finally, what he'd lost. If stories like Sophia's remind you that strength can rise from betrayal, subscribe. More stories of resilience, justice, and quiet power are coming.